WFM 91.7.
Good morning and welcome to Political Arena on Women Radio 91.7. My name is Somto Titilayo Ajama. Political Arena on Women Radio 91.7 is where we discuss politicking in Nigeria. Today on Political Arena, we are discussing Roadmap to 2023, breaking the bias in the political space. Roadmap to 2023, breaking the bias in the political space. It is widely perceived that when women are given equal opportunities as the men, it will not only reduce the burden on men, but it will definitely change the trajectory of things. Now, some people don't agree with that mindset, but that's a mindset that definitely needs to be proved. And this is, again, a school of thought. The need to break this bias hindering the growth and development of women is advocated to enable Nigeria get to that next level and have put full participation of both men and women in nation building. Today, we're speaking to HAJIYA IRETI HEEBAH KINGIBE, the Labour Party senatorial candidate representing the Federal Capital Territory. Hello, HAJIYA IRETI. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right. So as we go on, we're talking about breaking the bias in the political space. And today we're speaking with HAJIYA IRETI HEEBAH KINGIBE, the Labour Party senatorial candidate representing Federal Capital Territory. Congratulations on emerging the Labour Party senatorial candidate representing FCT. How does that feel?
Thank you. Well, it's exhilarating and a little bit scary because for a long time I've been trying to get a ticket to just be on the ballot because I felt that I could represent the people of the area better than we've been represented.
That sounds very good. I like the confidence. All right. So what do you think? What do you think the state needs at this point? What do you think the state needs to thrive as the capital of the nation? And how do you intend to achieve this? Hello, can you hear me? All right, let us try to reconnect with HAJIYA IRETI and we will be right back. The talk about this conversation is one that's very important, and this is why we need to emphasize the breaking the bias when it comes to women in political positions and when it comes to making women part of decision making in every single aspect, particularly at the highest ranks of governance. So this is especially important, and this is a conversation that needs to be held and needs to be held right now. So HAJIYA IRETI will be joining us back in just a moment. But in reality, we're still talking about breaking the bias, and this is a conversation that has been ongoing for a really long time, and to a large extent is saddening when you think about the update on the 35% affirmative action. All right, HAJIYA IRETI, can you hear me better now?
Yes, I can hear you well now.
All right. Thank you once again for joining us. So I'm talking about the Federal Capital Territory, which you're now representing under the Labour Party. What do you think that the Federal Capital Territory needs as the capital of the nation to thrive and do better from where it is now?
For one thing, it needs to be a place that is working for everybody. We don't have a public transportation system. Primary health care is bad. So many things, lack of housing. It is so well below the standards of other capitals. And I know that a good deal of these can be achieved through better legislation and also working closely with whoever becomes the minister of the FCT.
That's very...
to achieve the parts that are fully executive.
Okay. So what do you think, what have you outlined as maybe two major things that you want to work on or that you desire to see change in?
Okay, for one thing, because of the lack of certain policies that need to be brought to the attention of the National Assembly, our healthcare policies are not up to date. Our education policies are not up to date in the FCT. The FCT should be treated like a state, even though it's not a state. So there are certain laws and policies that put in place for them to be, for FCT.
Hello, can you hear me? All right, again, reconnecting, and hopefully we get better network so we can hear HAJIYA KINGIBE better. She is HAJIYA IRETI HEEBAH KINGIBE, the Labour Party senatorial candidate representing FCT. Now, believe it or not, the Federal Capital Territory, as the capital of the nation, is of very high priority to Nigeria, and I believe to HAJIYA IRETI as well. And this is why we need to talk about what it is that needs to be done, and we're referencing this, of course, to breaking the bias in the political space. All right, so you were talking to me about what you desire to see change, what you desire to see change in your tenure.
In agriculture as an alternative for young people, employment and empowerment of young men and women. A lot of these things, a better medical care for everybody, at least at the primary healthcare level. Mm-hmm. Also, education is supposed to be free. Because in reality, it isn't really free. So implementation of the fact that it should be free and quality education at that. So those are some of the things that I'm looking to do when and if I become the senator of the FCT.
All right. Thank you very much for that, because I think those are also things.
The agenda means women are left out in everything. And if it's legislated and implemented, then there should be gender mainstreaming in FCT. It's the capital. It's meant to be the pilot and the model for other states to emulate.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was just about to talk to you about the fact that women are constantly marginalized, particularly with politics. And you would agree that we need to break this bias. So what can women do to break this bias and to do better, particularly in the political space and when it comes to decision making?
Well, for one thing, women, I see from the trend when I go out.
While we're trying to work on reconnecting, this is a very important subject, breaking the bias and the constant marginalization of women in politics. Sometimes it feels like women are putting one foot forward, and then it also feels like they're taking 10 steps back at the same time. So this is definitely something that needs to evolve over time. And to a large extent, a school of thought would say it begins, not ends. It begins with the 35% affirmative action. All right, we still have with us HAJIYA IRETI HEEBAH KINGIBE, the Labour Party senatorial candidate representing FCT. Now, I was asking about what you think women can do to break this bias of marginalization in the political space and to earn those positions of decision making.
For one thing, they need to constitute themselves into a bloc, one voting bloc that they will only take to parties and candidates that respect the fact that women should be involved in every aspect of the country, especially governance. Secondly, is to ensure that every time a woman manages to get a ticket, that all the women go out and vote for her. That ensuring that she gets elected. The truth is that there are more female registered voters than men, and they can actually make a difference. Those are some of the things that women need to do. And then women, when they get elected, they also should pay specific attention to pulling up other women after them and mentoring them and assisting to make sure that they can also get into the political space.
I like that point about raising and mentoring other women. Do you think there's enough of that? Do you think there's enough of that in the current political space?
Not at all. I don't think there's enough of it. I think a lot more needs to happen. It could also be because there are so few women in the political space. But the more women we pull in and the more they pull in other women, over a period of time, you will find that there are more women in the political space and in governance.
Very true, very true. Now, talking about the National Assembly, sometimes bills are being laid before the National Assembly, and what comes to mind particularly is the gender bills of just a little while ago in March, and it sometimes feels that because there are not enough women in the National Assembly to represent the voices of the populace, of the female populace, these bills are not being granted, they're not being passed into law. What do you think can be done better to ensure that there's more progress in this area?
Well, unless you do put more women in, and then you have a critical mass of women, and vote that gender issue seriously. They just treat it with such levity. In fact, all 5 bills were thrown out. They didn't even, some of them were no-brainers. They were actually things that made sense. If women and men are treated equally in the Constitution, it would go without saying that women will have the same rights as men.
Definitely, that's very true. And these gender bills there was a lot of clamor. There was a lot of clamor from the people, from the populace, as regards these gender bills, because to a large extent, this was in reference to the International Women's Day, and people had a lot of hope, particularly concerning the passage of these gender bills. So going forward, what is your suggestion going forward, particularly in reference to the gender bills? What would you suggest to be done?
Maybe having more women across the country be desensitized about it, perhaps a massive women's rally at the same time that these bills are being considered at the National Assembly, so that the men are aware that a large number of women are standing by, insisting that these bills must be passed. And also, if the bills are not passed, the women don't have any punitive measures for the parties. They should pay attention to the voting pattern and make sure that the people who vote against these things are penalized by women by ensuring that they do not get their votes. That is a key factor.
Definitely. Thank you very much, HAJIYA IRETI. Thank you very much for that. And then there's one more thing I wanted to make reference to, which I have already, and I'd just like your take on that. It's the 35% affirmative action, and to a large extent, it feels like there was progress, but now it's like we're being regressed back to where we're coming from because of the development of the government trying to appeal the judgment that was passed by the courts at the time in favor of the women. So what is your take on this, particularly because this is instrumental to seeing that women are actually put in political positions going forward?
Well, I truly do not understand why the government is bothering to appeal. It is clear that for the country to develop properly, there need to be more women. If you look at the countries that have more women in government, like Rwanda, South Africa, or even Senegal, now compare their economic development, much better than ours. So, fine, not very scientific, but it goes without saying that the more women you have in governance, the better developed the country will be economically. If for no other reason than that women are 50% of the population, ignoring 50% of your population does not augur well for any society. So I really do not understand why the government is refusing. But as I said, nothing is going to be given to women or any other group. We have to insist on it. We have to find the means of ensuring that we get it.
Definitely. And finally, as we round off, what are some of the tips that you have learned over the years that have kept you pushing for a statutory position in politics that you would also like to share for other women who are vying for political positions?
Well, one of the things that I have to tell women, because there are a few women I have tried to mentor in the FCT, brought them out to run, but once they do not win the first time around, they sort of get intimidated and scared and they run away. Women must keep at it. They have to be tenacious about it. And I know that sometimes the whole political terrain is sometimes scary for women, but they also have to be bold and courageous, because once they keep that in mind that, well, the men are doing it, we certainly can. I also believe that in reality, women are innately stronger beings. So once they can keep that in view, I think more women will not be as intimidated by it. Secondly, women need to find a way as a group to assist other women financially, because that is also a problem that makes women run away from the whole thing. So there needs to be like a pool of funds to assist capable, and the key word is capable, younger women, because older women obviously have grown to the point where they're able to source funds, which a younger woman may not be able to. So that is also another way. And it should be, the involvement of women in governments should be a concerted effort, because the truth is that I find that women, no matter what they do, when they are needed for something, everybody rallies round to them to get it done. Once it's done, then they now want to relegate the woman to then you start here, after all, she's only a woman. And also generally to make women understand that anything you haven't achieved is just what you haven't achieved yet. Anything can be achieved if you really want to do so. Those are the things I have learned.
Absolutely. And those are very strong lessons that have apparently kept you this long in the political space. And of course, those are very encouraging tips for younger women to learn from as they proceed into the political space, as it were, in Nigeria today. Then what are your final words, being that as the Labour Party senatorial candidate representing FCT, it's also a very interesting position to be vying for. And believe it or not, there are other people who are vying for that same position. So what are your final words in reference to that?
Well, in reference to it, I'm just going to tell all women to support women. Secondly, I want to add that whenever a younger woman wants to come out in politics, she should look for an older one, even if they're not currently in the political space, somebody who would guide and mentor, because it is key. There was a young woman who came out of politics in the FCT this time around, who wasn't successful in getting her ticket. But I wish that I had known that she was running. I would have gone a lot out of my way in ensuring that she did get a ticket. I only sort of got in touch with her, or she got in touch with me after it was all over. And that is key, because my entrance into politics was, in at least elected politics, was engineered and introduced by a woman who showed me the ropes. And I believe that she was very instrumental in my success in my first outing.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you very much for joining us today on Political Arena. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today on Political Arena.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
And that is HAJIYA IRETI HEEBAH KINGIBE, the Labour Party senatorial candidate representing FCT. Today on Political Arena, we just talked about roadmap to 2023, breaking the bias in the political space. Political Arena is where we discuss politicking in Nigeria, and this is very important. It's a very important conversation, particularly in view of the 2023 elections. Next Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. is another time on Political Arena. Thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you to the producer, Adenike Kodre. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama. Good morning.
WFM 91.7.